Have you ever felt this way? Betrayed by someone you trusted, feeling like you're the only one who loses out. Why did I ever get involved with a person like that? Many people struggle with relationships, whether with friends, bosses, or family, and their hearts get worn down. But I want to say this, not being able to read people will ruin your life. Your connections with people are your life itself. If you meet good people, you'll be happy. If you associate with bad people, you'll inevitably be exhausted, and even your luck will be stolen. Relationship failures aren't just bad luck. They're your responsibility for not choosing wisely, for not noticing. In my career in business, I have seen hundreds, even thousands of people. I've hired people, mentored them, trusted them, and also been betrayed by them. Through all that, I can say with conviction that there is one single criterion for judging a person. You must sever ties with people who say certain words. It's not about their education, their title, their appearance, or their way of speaking. It's about what words they habitually use. The words people say reveal the root of their heart. A person without gratitude has no gratitude in their words. An arrogant person has arrogance in their words. A person who looks down on others, even when they're smiling, reveals it in their tone. No matter how much you associate with such people, you will eventually be hurt. Conversely, if you can learn to read people's words, you can learn to read people. People who repeat relationship failures lack the training to read a person's true nature from the subtle cues in their language. Today, I want to share with you the criteria I've gained in my life for reading people, presented as 7 key phrases. There is a basis and a reason why I can definitively say you should not associate with people who say these words. Knowing this will change how you see people. It will change your life. And most importantly, it will protect your own heart. Now listen, here are the 7 characteristics of people you should cut ties with. First lesson, people who say they're unlucky won't attract luck. The easiest and most dangerous verbal habit in a relationship is the phrase, I have no luck. I had bad luck. Things aren't going my way. Only I lose out. You might feel some empathy for such people, especially if you are a kind person. But I want to say this loudly. Luck will never side with someone who says they're unlucky. It's not just a coincidence. That kind of mindset pushes luck away. For example, suppose you entrust someone with a task. When the result is not good, will that person reflect saying, I'm sorry, I wasn't good enough? Or will they blame it on luck, saying, the timing was just bad, wasn't it? Things just haven't been going my way lately. Which person would you trust again? The answer is clear. Opportunities only come to those who take responsibility. But people who say they have no luck tend to blame failures and problems on someone or something else. There is no growth or learning in that. In my long career as a business owner, no matter how capable a person was, I never promoted an employee who said they were unlucky. Because a sense of mistrust spreads around that person. They blame the subordinates, the timing, the economy. They blame everything on something other than themselves. People quietly move away from such individuals. Haven't you had a similar experience? You meet someone and feel drained, and the words, I'm just so unlucky, keep coming out of their mouth. At first, it might sound like a joke, but after the second or third time, you start to see their true nature. What's more terrifying is that their words can be contagious. At first, you might be encouraging them, but you may unknowingly become influenced and start to think, maybe I'm unlucky too. When you are close to someone who uses bad luck as an excuse, you too start to use luck as an excuse. That's why I say keep your distance from people who say they have no luck. Relationships are an exchange of emotions. When you interact with people who live with gratitude, you naturally start to feel grateful too. Conversely, when you interact with people who feel like they're the only ones with bad luck, dissatisfaction and envy quietly take root in your heart. People are influenced by their environment, and the strongest influence is words. That's why I want you to remember, if you stay by the side of someone who says they have no luck, your own luck will depart from you. That's the first lesson I learned throughout my life. Second lesson, The heart of a person who can't say thank you is corrupted. There is one phrase that I have valued the most in my relationships: thank you. As long as a person holds on to a heart of gratitude, they will not become corrupt. Conversely, no matter how excellent or capable a person is, they will inevitably fall if they forget gratitude. The moment a person loses a sense of gratitude is when their moral decay begins. This is a truth I have experienced firsthand countless times. Why? Because gratitude is an expression of humility. To be humble means to respect others and not to be overconfident in yourself. And at the root of that is a feeling of thanks to you. However, in today's world, there are more and more people who have an attitude of, it's what you're supposed to do for me, or it's obvious you would notice. A characteristic of such people is that no matter how much you help them or support them with a smile, the words thank you never come out. They don't just not say it, they don't even think it. They think it's a given that you would do this. I didn't ask you for it, so there's no need to thank you. This kind of mindset seeps into their words in the subtle details of their actions. Haven't you had this experience? You helped someone who was in trouble, but they acted as if nothing had happened afterward. And for some reason, you felt empty. That emptiness is proof of your kind heart. But that kindness should be directed toward people who will return that gratitude. A person who can't be grateful will eventually become a taker. They forget how to give, and they start to see receiving as a given. And the people around them will eventually get exhausted and quietly leave. I have seen many such employees in my business. Employees who think it's their due often become sloppy in their reports to their superiors and their words to customers. What happens then? They lose trust. The atmosphere of the organization sours, and in the end, they find themselves cornered. Gratitude is more than just a word, it's a way of life. For example, if you say thank you so much to a person who is cleaning, that creates a smile on their face. When you finish a meal at a restaurant and say thank you for the meal to the cashier, that can change their day. I can trust people who value these small acts of gratitude, and I've entrusted opportunities to such people. Conversely, people who can't say thank you have a habit of taking in some part of their heart. That's why I want to tell you, slowly distance yourself from people who can't express gratitude. Your heart will be worn away, your natural kindness will be taken advantage of. And above all, happiness cannot be born in a world without gratitude. Let's live with people who value thank you. That's a definite choice that will enrich your life. Third lesson, distance yourself from people who respond with, but isn't that impossible? When you try to start something new, do you have people around you who say, but isn't that impossible? You should stop. Be realistic. At first glance, it might seem like they're just worried about you, but I believe you must be most careful with these kinds of words. Associate with people who think about how something can be done rather than why it can't. This is a mindset I have cherished since I was young. Oh, no matter what you try to do, there are countless reasons why it can't be done. I don't have money. I don't have time. I don't have experience. I'm too old. If you start with those excuses, nothing will ever begin. But for those who think about how to do it, a path will open up. Luck will also side with them. When I started manufacturing electrical appliances, I had no money and no knowledge. I only had a junior high school education. People around me said all sorts of things. Electricity is dangerous. An amateur shouldn't get involved in that. You'll go out of business right away. But I thought this, that may be true, but that's exactly why it's worth doing. Every new challenge begins with a voice of negation. There are probably people around you who respond to your ideas with but. It's not that they have bad intentions. They just assume that because they couldn't do it, you can't either. If you take their words to heart, an invisible chain will wrap around your heart. Every time you try to challenge yourself, the voice of but or but will echo in your mind. That voice won't be from someone else. It will eventually become your own voice. That's the scariest part. That's why I want to say, distance yourself from people who respond with, but isn't that impossible? Of course, there's no need to coldly cut them off. Just keep an emotional distance. Instead, keep people close who will affirm your dreams and say, that's interesting. You should go for it. Those people will encourage you and believe in your potential. I know firsthand how reassuring that is. Your relationships determine your future. If you associate with people who look for reasons to do things, you will also become a person who can do things. If you surround yourself with people who only use negative words, your life will shrink and come to an end. So I want you to remember this. Choose the voice that says you should go for it over the voice that says but. That is the path that will change the direction of your life. Fourth lesson, people who say it's not my fault will always repeat the same mistakes. Have you ever heard the words, it's not my fault? He's the one who made the mistake. It was just bad luck. It's not my responsibility. Do those sound familiar? At first, it might sound like a lighthearted joke, but I believe no other phrase expresses the essence of a person more than this one. A person who blames failure on others will never grow. Why? Because you can only learn from your failures. As long as you blame others for a failure, you can't look at what you did wrong. That means you will become a person who can never change. As a business owner, I have made countless mistakes. There have been times when I made the wrong decision or caused my employees distress. But each time I asked myself, what was I not good enough at? Because I could find an answer there, I could use it for the next time and grow. No matter how competent a person is, if they insist on saying it's not my fault, they will repeat the same mistakes over and over. Because they don't reflect. A person who doesn't see failure as their own responsibility and always points the finger at someone else doesn't think about doing better next time. Instead, they try to protect themselves by blaming others. That attitude quietly erodes trust. Think about it. When a problem arises, the person who is the first to blame others and never admits their own fault may seem assertive at first, but with time, no one will rely on them anymore. And what's scary is that when such a person is around, you too will be infected with the habit of avoiding responsibility. People who blame others spread that habit like a disease in the air around them. The team atmosphere sours. More people start saying, I don't know, or that's not my job. Before you know it, everyone is running away from responsibility and no one can move forward. That corrodes an organization. It breaks up families. It dulls the choices you make in your life. That's why I say be careful with people who say it's not my fault. If you are with someone who cannot face their own weaknesses, your heart will also become dull. On the other hand, a person who can honestly say, I'm sorry, that was my fault, is someone I've given countless chances to. Why? Because a person who can reflect will always make progress. You've probably felt it too when someone apologized to you. I can trust this person. That is the root of a person. Only people who can honestly admit their own faults can truly build trust with others. So I want you to remember this. A person who says, it's not my fault, seems to be getting by, but in reality, they are constantly destroying themselves. And if you get deeply involved with such a person, the same poison will seep into your life. Keep your distance to protect your heart, to protect your future. Fifth lesson, the true face of a person who casually says he's useless. Are there people around you who casually say he's useless? That person is no good, or they can't do anything right. You find them everywhere, in companies, at school, everywhere. At first glance, they might seem like a competent and highly regarded person. But whenever I see such a person, I quietly and gently distance myself. Why? Because a person who denigrates others is ultimately denigrating themselves. Many people who use words that look down on and dismiss others are trying to hide their own anxiety or feelings of inferiority. In other words, they are hiding the weakness in their heart by putting others down. As a business owner, I have seen many employees. What does it mean to mentor someone? What does it mean to read people? I became certain of one thing. A person who is too hard on others is also too lenient on themselves. They believe that what they can do, everyone should be able to do. They don't forgive mistakes, they laugh at weaknesses, and they don't acknowledge effort. Such a person pollutes the atmosphere of an organization. They create an environment where people become timid and only their own opinion is heard. What's more, a person who judges others as useful or useless ultimately acts only out of their own self-interest. When times are good, they praise others, but in a pinch, they are the first to shift the blame. There are probably people like that around you. You must not stay by the side of such a person. Why, Bawani? Because you too will eventually be on the receiving end of their judgment. The person who was friendly with you today might call you useless tomorrow. This kind of relationship, living in constant fear, will exhaust your heart and wear down your soul. I have valued the opposite kind of person, a person who sees others' weaknesses but doesn't blame them and tries to support them instead. For example, so-and-so might take a bit of time, but their work is very thorough. Or so-and-so makes a lot of mistakes, but they really work hard. I can trust a person who tries to see the value in others. People aren't machines. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. A person who dismisses others as useful or useless will eventually be dismissed by someone else one day. That's why I want to tell you, see my surface of a person who says he's useless, there lurks coldness and calculation. That might one day become a knife that stabs you. The words a person uses to describe others reveal their character. If there is a person around you who only uses words to put others down, that person may be someone who, in some part of their heart, wants to be above everyone else. You need to reconsider your relationship with such a person. Let's live with people who support others. Let's connect with people who believe in others. If you do, your heart will also become soft and warm. That is what a truly happy relationship is. Sixth lesson, a relationship with a person who seeks something in return will eventually fail. I helped them out the other day, but they didn't even say thank you. I lent them something, but it was never returned. I feel like I'm the only one losing out. Aren't there people who expect something in return for what they've done? At first, they may seem kind. You might think they're a nice person or they're so considerate. But then one day they might suddenly become cold toward you. Why? Because when their expectation of a return is betrayed, their true nature is revealed. I have seen this happen many times, and I am certain of this. Think about what's right before you think about what you gain. This means that a person who acts based on what is right rather than what they gain is the real deal. In other words, a person who acts with the expectation of a return only sees others in terms of what they can get from them. That true nature will eventually come to the surface. You've probably experienced it. A person who was kind and friendly at first, but whose attitude suddenly changed the moment you couldn't meet their expectations, as if they were a different person. They might try to force a sense of obligation on you, saying, "I did so much for you, don't you know how much I've done?" Obligation is something you feel. It's not something that can be forced upon you. I've seen how easily relationships built only on a give and take basis can fall apart in the business world. A person who thought, "I did this much work, so I should get this much in return," gets angry when things don't go as expected. That anger doesn't just hurt the other person, it also destroys their own heart. I believe that a truly strong person is someone who can forget what they have done for others. They just did it because it felt necessary at the time, without expecting anything in return. A person who interacts with others with this kind of heart will eventually gain trust. Conversely, a person who seeks a return can only build a transactional relationship, not one based on trust. It is a cold relationship without warmth. If you get deeply involved with such a person, you too will become someone who acts out of self-interest. I'll get something from this person. Or this person is a loss, so I won't meet them anymore. You'll start to choose people based on their value. That is a path that will dull your human sensibilities. I want to say choose people who act based on what's right rather than what they gain. When you are kind to someone, let's become a person who can smile even if you're not thanked. That strength will protect your life. And a relationship that doesn't expect a return is the one that lasts the longest and becomes a deep bond of trust. The poison that quietly seeps into relationships is from people who use favors as a weapon. So be careful. People who get angry when they aren't repaid. People who complain that they're the only ones losing out. Slowly distance yourself from such people. That is the way to protect the freedom of your own heart. Seventh lesson, the only habit needed to develop the ability to read people. Up until now, I've told you to be careful with people who say certain words. But then, how can you spot such people? Some of you must be thinking that. If you're struggling, thinking, I can't read people, or I always fail in relationships, I want to give you this final piece of advice. To read people, you must look at yourself. This is the essence of relationships. Your ability to read people's hearts is proportional to the state of your own heart. A person who trusts others too much and gets hurt, and a person who is too suspicious and becomes lonely. All of it has its root in the habits and state of your own heart. When I was young, I was betrayed by people I trusted and took in as colleagues. They even ran away with company funds. I cried many times out of regret and self-pity, wondering why I had trusted such people. But then one day I thought, nothing will change even if I think that person was bad. What's important is why I chose that person. From that day on, before I blamed others, I started to look deeply into my own heart. Was I impatient? Did my own desires cloud my judgment? Did I ignore the signs from my heart because I calculated that I'll gain from partnering with this person? The answer was all within myself. It's a strange thing, but as your own heart becomes more stable, you can see the true nature of others more clearly. For example, if you have an honest heart, you will naturally notice the unnatural words and actions of others. Conversely, if your heart is clouded, you might be suspicious even of someone's kindness, or you might fail to see the malice that looks like kindness. In other words, the ability to read people begins with a dialogue with yourself. I have explained this with the phrase, have an honest heart. Honesty means being straightforward. It means looking at a person quietly, without prejudice, without desire, without anger, and without arrogance. If you look at people with this attitude, you can clearly see the bottom of their heart, no matter how good their words are or how well they put on a front. So if you want to become better at reading people, I want you to start by improving yourself. There's no need to be unnecessarily suspicious. There's no need to try too hard to expose them. Just quietly reflect on yourself every day so that your heart is always in order. If you do, suspicious words, fake smiles, and too easy promises will gradually become transparent. If the eyes of your heart aren't clouded, you will surely meet people you can trust. The most important thing for judging your relationships is to increase the transparency of your own heart. If you can do that, the wrong people won't be able to enter your life. Choosing your relationships is choosing your life. Finally, to you who have listened this far, there is one thing I absolutely want to tell you. Who you associate with determines your life itself. People are influenced by their environment. The biggest influence in that environment is other people. The people you associate with, the words you exchange, the time you spend together, that creates your thoughts, your habits, and determines the direction of your life. That's why I want to say this. If you change the people you associate with, your life will change. To do that, you need courage. Even if you feel that you don't get along with someone, you might continue the relationship because you've known them for a long time. But if the people you associate with are constantly negating you, laughing at your efforts, and taking away your hope, if they don't thank you and only take from you, it's okay to let go of that connection to protect your life. There's no need to be cold. Just keep an emotional distance. And in their place, cherish the people who say thank you. Trust the people who encourage you by saying, you can do it, you should go for it. Those people are the connections that will brighten your life. I have been surrounded by such people. They aren't all special people, but they are people with an honest heart who never forget gratitude. That's why I am who I am today. I want you to start looking at people with that kind of eye from today. Look at their words. What kind of words does a person say? That is a reflection of their heart. If the 7 lessons I've shared, the words that tell you to sever ties with certain people, can become a guide that protects your life, there is no greater joy for me. Finally, what kind of words do the people around you use? What kind of words make your heart tremble? If something resonated with you, I would love for you to comment with 100. What you noticed, what you felt, what person you were reminded of. Anything is fine. Your words might become the trigger that moves someone else's heart. And if you think that my words will be meaningful for your future, I hope you will subscribe and press the notification bell. I sincerely wish that your future is filled with relationships with bright people. Thank you for watching until the end.